Alright, welcome to my guide on how to zero-tick off-style weapon specs with Necromancy. We'll cover what zero-ticking is, why it's useful, and how to do it. When we get there, we'll briefly look at setting up action bar binding so that we can easily do this technique without any macros. Whenever you're using Necromancy, if you remove your offhand conduit weapon, all of your summoned conjures will despawn instantly, even if you had just freshly summoned them just a moment ago. They are tied to your offhand weapon. The only exception are the two Necromancy shields, the Dragonfire Shroud and the Spectral Spirit Shield. You are free to switch to those and they will preserve your conjures. This is where zero-ticking comes in. We can actually make use of powerful off-style weapon special attacks like the Saren Godbow or the Roar and Ode Soulfire spec without losing our conjures. You might be thinking you could just equip a main hand and cast those specs without risking taking off your offhand and then losing the conjures. And you're right. You can cast Soulfire with just a wand equipped, or use the Saren Godbow with an EOF and a main hand crossbow, but you won't do nearly as much damage compared to equipping both mage weapons or an actual bow. So while it's still strong to be able to use those special attacks with only a main hand, if you're really wanting to maximize damage, it will be best to learn how to zero-tick. So now that you know what it is and why it's good, here's the actual method. To do this, you will need your main two Necromancy weapons. You'll need an extra Necromancy offhand. In my case, it's going to be a regular tier 90 lantern, but you may see some players will have a dyed soulbound lantern. It could even be a level 10 lantern. The important thing is that it's just a different offhand from your main offhand. Lastly, you'll need the weapons that you want to spec with, so either your dual wield soulfires or a Bow of the Last Guardian and Saren Godbow EOF. So to do this, summon your conjures and then attack the monster. I'll be attacking the PVM hub dummy here. Whenever you're ready to do your zero-tick, you'll first want to cast a Necromancy ability to incur the global cooldown. It doesn't matter which ability it is, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'll use Death Skulls. Once you've pressed that ability and the global cooldown has started, this is the best time to activate Ingenuity of the Humans. When you're practicing this, you can omit this Ingenuity, but this will be important to do full damage once you get comfortable with this technique. So press your Necro ability, then Ingenuity. Now you'll want to wait 2 ticks. Basically, you want to wait right up until the very last tick before the game will actually let you use another ability. Whenever the global cooldown has started, all of your abilities will be grayed out for 3 ticks. So I like looking at my abilities, and whenever I see that the abilities have gotten 2/3 of the way fully recolored, that's when I know I'm good to go. Equip your spec weapons now, either your Soulfires or your SGB, cast the special attack now that you're able to use an ability again, and in the very same tick that you cast the attack, equip your alternate Necromancy offhand. I'll also equip my Necromancy main hand at the same time, but since conjures are only tied to your offhand, all you actually have to do in the same tick is equip the offhand. So to reiterate that, cast a Necro ability, Ingenuity of the Humans, on the very last tick of the global cooldown, equip your spec weapons, cast your spec, and equip your alternate Necro offhand. You'll know that you've done this correctly if all of your conjures are still alive after you use the special attack. This will take some practice, no doubt, but if anyone remembers the lossless Gothic staff method for aftershock stacks before EOFs actually came out, this is conceptually very similar to that. I'll demonstrate this in live speed, then we'll look at how to set up your keybind so that you can do this without any macros. So here's live speed with the Soulfire, and here's live speed with the Saren Godbow. So the way that I taught myself to do this was to set up my action bar binding in such a way that whenever I equip my magic weapons, the game will automatically switch one of my utility bars to a bar that has my Necromancy weapons in the exact same slots. That way I can just keep my fingers on those same 2 buttons and then double press them twice in the same tick. To set up your action bar binding, I like to open Settings, search Action Bar Binding, and here we can set things up to our liking. So I'll change these settings so that whenever I equip any magic weapon, my extra utility action bar will change automatically to the bar that has the Necromancy weapons on it. And I'll do the same thing for the Necromancy weapons, just making sure that it's set so that whenever I equip those Necro weapons, the extra utility bar will change to the bar that has the magic weapons on it. By the way, if you're interested in a more in-depth tutorial on action bar binding specifically so that you can switch multiple bars at the same time automatically, let me know. Now that you have the bar binding set up, this is a super important tip. Logically, you would think that you would want to have your main hand weapon as the first weapon that you click on your bar, but the action bar's binding settings are based on whatever main hand you equip. So if you were to equip your main hand weapon first, your bar would change right away before you could even equip the offhand. So even though we're pressing both of those buttons in the same tick, it'll actually only equip your main hand if you press it first, leaving you with the wrong offhand and ultimately messing up this technique. Instead, make sure that it's the offhand keybind that you press first. Now I'll show you what actually pressing those buttons looks like in person, so get ready to flame because I am a MacBook gamer. I put my weapon binds here on period and slash, and my weapon spec will be here on comma. For the purposes of this, since I am holding my phone in my left hand, I've switched my spec bind from F to comma. Normally I'll do this with two hands. So period is my offhand and slash is my main hand. Remember that I want to equip the offhand first, otherwise my bars will switch too early before I can equip the offhand. So I'll normally click engine manually, then I'll hit offhand main hand together, spec, and then offhand main hand again. So there you go, that's how I do my zero-tick necromancy specs without using any macros. So now we finally know how to zero-tick, and we know it's possible to consistently and reliably do without macros. Where is this useful though? In short, basically everywhere you're using necromancy, particularly during lengthier fights that you might not kill within one living death. A couple of specific examples that come to mind were my recent Kezalam Master Speed rotation showcase. That definitely would not have been reliable without zero-tick soulfire. Zero-tick soulfire also helped a ton during my 6 out of 6 solo hard mode Virago grind, particularly on the hardest weeks like Vitalis and Green Bomb. It's also great at Raksha. It is part of the Necromancy Camp Master Speed killing rotation as well. It's really just an awesome technique if you're pushing towards completing any of the Master Combat achievements. The Saren Godbow zero tick is maybe a little bit more niche, but one place that comes to mind with that one as being particularly powerful would be at Vorkath. Especially if you had a physical Saren Godbow, you could take advantage of the Salve Amulet plus Jas Dragonbane arrows while still reaping the full benefits of your Necromancy conjures. Necromancy is a substantially easier style to use at Vorkath, so being able to use your favorite style plus some powerful special attacks is just fantastic. Vorkath is actually an interesting example because you could probably find time to zero-tick both Saren Godbow and Soulfire, and it would probably be quite strong. For example, you might zero-tick the Saren Godbow on Vorkath, and you might zero-tick the Soulfire on Zemmour Regal. I have a casual Necrocamp Master Timer video coming out soon for Vorkath that uses neither one of those, but it is interesting to think about. So there you have it, that's my video on how to zero-tick special attacks with Necromancy. Hopefully I demonstrated it well. I really think that it sounds a lot more intimidating and complicated than it actually is once you find the right binds for yourself. There are a lot of things that I'm still not able to do, like a full 5-way armor swap, plus dual wield weapons, plus prayers in the same tick, not only from a personal keybind perspective, but I would also just want to have a 6th action bar on screen for that. So you'll see in a lot of my hybrid videos, I just manually click a lot of my switches in those videos. I do wish there was a legal in-game way of doing that, like having the whole armor set on one single action bar slot, but that's probably never going to happen. A lot of those extreme cases with 7 to 9 inputs like that are probably a bit unrealistic without macros, at least in my opinion. I don't think I could achieve them without some kind of game update or a serious overhaul to my keybinds, so I don't bother with anything like that, but you can very realistically achieve a lot of these 4 to 5 input tricks without any macros, just like I do. Just take some time to find the right binds for yourself and practice in low stakes environments like the PVM Hub Dummies or God Wars 2. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. Subscribe and share it with a friend if it was. Leave me a comment. Thanks for watching and see you next time.